Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do some planting here in the garden. I just bought a bunch of vegetable starts as well as some herbs, and so we're going to go ahead and go get those planted. I'm super excited. I was able to get just a variety of different things. I've got two areas in the yard that I'm going to plant some of these. We're going to start on the side of the house and then we'll do in the back as well. I'll kind of walk through what I got and where I'm planting it, any kind of tips or tricks I might know about some of those plants, as well as just some tips and tricks on when it comes to getting started with a vegetable garden. What are some key factors to think through, as well as just an idea of how I go about choosing the plants that I do. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, unfortunately, I don't have a microphone that's working, so hopefully this is okay. But any talking I do will be pretty close like this, otherwise it'll just be kind of far away shot, so hopefully it won't be too quiet for you. There's a lot of noise in my area, but this should be good. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we are over here on the side of the house where I have several raised beds. I've changed kind of what I've grown in this area year over year. So it originally started out as my only vegetable garden, and then the second year I grew some vegetables in here and then some flowers, and then the last couple years I've done mostly just flowers in this space. But I have not been having good luck having pumpkins and watermelon grow in the back garden space. Not only does it not get as much sun as this side of the house, but squirrels tend to find that garden more than this one, and they will eat away at any pumpkins or melons that I have growing. So we're going to have this side of the house be primarily my vine crops, meaning pumpkins and watermelon. And I've also got some broccoli, just because broccoli hasn't been doing well in the back either. We're also going to do onions on this side of the house too. I find that they might perform a little better on this side of the house again because it gets just a tiny bit more sunlight than the back of the back garden. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and just get some of these things planted. I did just install a drip system on this side of the house. I didn't have one before, but I really am trying to cut down on the day-to-day maintenance of all of my gardens, mostly the vegetable gardens. And so there is a drip system in here. So when I do plant things, I'm going to plant them strategically in line with those drip lines. And that'll take off quite a bit of time when it comes to watering. Consistent water is something that is super important with any garden, but especially vegetables. They tend to perform better when they have a consistent watering schedule. Fertilizer is going to help, especially with our short growing season here in Minnesota. Fertilizer helps get things really going. When it comes to the type of plants that I choose for my vegetable garden, I have tried growing, you name it, I've tried growing it, and some of it was just because I was curious if I could get it to grow. I thought I might eat some of it, or more of it, I should say. But in the end, I realized that really the key to having a successful vegetable garden, and one that you actually feel good about harvesting from, is one that you're going to grow stuff in that you actually will eat. Spend a lot of time and effort growing the things in your garden, and so when you grow things that you're not particularly keen on eating, it kind of has been, in my opinion, not the best use of your time and resources. So I've really kind of honed in on things that I like to grow personally, and that's going to be your tomatoes and peppers and onions and herbs, pumpkins, watermelon. I've got different fruit trees, different things like that that I have just kind of honed in on, as these are things that I know that if I grow them, I will eat them. So I think that's key when you're planning out your garden. So anyways, let's go ahead and start planting some things. We're going to start with the onions first, and then I'll do the other items here in a bit. All right, so the last few things you saw me planting were two different varieties of pumpkins. It was a pie pumpkin and a Howden pumpkin, so kind of like a classic jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. And then I also did some broccoli and what else did I do? Watermelon. So I have a lot more to add to this area eventually, but we will see what I choose. That's what I have for now. So we'll head to the back and get that done here as well. All right, everyone, it is a new day. Things just got going a little too late when I was doing the side garden, vegetable garden the other day. And I meant to get started on the back, and then I realized I had a whole bunch of weeding and prep work to get done. And so I wanted to get that done. And I started doing it, didn't film it, and then it has been raining here for quite a few days. So I haven't been able to get out here. Life got busy. Anyways, we are back to it today. So we're going to head to the back vegetable garden. We're going to plant up some different plants I got. It's a mix of tomato plants, some peppers, dill, some other herbs, and then I think I have some cucumber as well. So we're gonna get that stuff planted, and then that should complete the planting of all vegetable and herbs for this season. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're in the back garden. This is the back vegetable garden area. There's fruit trees and some other things back here as well. We are gonna be focusing on this area. So as you can see, I've got a handful of tomatoes and then a few peppers, one more tomato there to get in the ground here, and we'll go through each of these varieties. So something that I always like to do is make sure that I give the plants a little bit of fertilizer just to give them a little boost. We have such a short growing season here in Minnesota. And it takes a little bit for plants to kind of get going at the beginning of the season because we tend to have more cold temps. Tomatoes are going to they thrive better in warmer temps. So I like to give them a little bit of fertilizer. What you can kind of see me doing here is I usually will snap off the lower sets of leaves. This is to help with airflow and to make sure that there's no possibility for any kind of fungal disease. This garden does have a drip system, so I do plant these right near, this is the drip hose that has a hole every 6 inches. So I do put the plant right next to a drip line hole. And then we'll just kind of cover it with, I have leaf mulch in this garden just to hold moisture and also suppress any weeds. So that one's planted. We're going to go ahead and get the rest of these planted. I also wanted to talk about another trick that I do with tomato plants, and that is when you are planting them, these are pretty sturdy, but sometimes when you get a tomato plant, they're really wobbly in the can. So I actually will bury the stem. The soil in this container is here, but I sometimes bury the plant a little bit deeper. This will help give it a firmer stance here as it's in my garden. There's all sorts of different methods to planting tomatoes. I've seen people plant them sideways and then tilt this up to help with stability. I really don't know if any of these steps really make a huge difference, but I tend to do that just as a safety precaution. Tomatoes are unique in that they will shoot off roots from anywhere on the stem if it's covered in soil. So it really is not going to hurt the plant to bury it a little bit deeper. So last year I did straw as the moisture retainer and weed suppressant, and I just didn't want to spend the money on it, and I had so many leaves drop into my yard this year in the fall, just from my trees and neighbors' trees, that I wanted to kind of use some resources that I had here in the garden, which is free, in the way of leaf mulch. So it seems to be working pretty well. We had a lot of rain. This is pretty moist soil and it's not letting a lot of weeds come through. So I think that was a good solution. Well, technology. It's always hard to film, be worried about the camera and filming and all that while you're also planting in the garden. So I went ahead and finished planting all of the tomatoes and peppers. I was talking while I was planting them, but I don't believe that it's saved. So I'm gonna just real quick highlight the plants that I put in. So I've got a handful of tomatoes. We've got Brandywine, Mortgage Lifter, Roma tomatoes, Mr. Stripey, black crim, and then the yellow pear tomatoes. And then we've got, sorry, the sun is suddenly out and blazing. Then we have, and a pineapple tomato as well. That one I've never grown before, and same with the Mr. Stripey, so we'll see how those go. Peppers, I grew serrano pepper. I have serrano peppers, garden salsa peppers, and then Big Bertha, which I've never grown before, but it seemed like a good one for cooking, so we did that. I also said, that got cut off, like I said the other day when I was planting the side vegetable garden, I think it's important to really plant things that you are going to enjoy harvesting and eating. You put a lot of time and effort into this to plant things that you're not gonna eat or enjoy harvesting. So in this particular bed, I've got tomatoes and peppers. I'm gonna use tomatoes and peppers in a lot of different things. I love making fresh salsa. We did plant onions on the side garden, so between the peppers and the tomatoes and the onions, I can make a really nice garden salsa, which will be nice. So the next couple things we're gonna plant are a couple of cucumbers and then some herbs. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Someone is laying right where I need to plant the cucumbers, but I'll give him a few more minutes to lay there. So this structure here, this is, let me come from this angle so you can see it a little better. So this is 3 cattle panel kind of trellises that I built last year. I had mostly tomatoes on this last year, and this system worked really well. I have tried all sorts of different methods to staking tomatoes. I don't love tomato cages. I think personally, they just don't fit the aesthetic of my garden. And on top of that, they're not that sturdy depending on the tomato plant. So I also have done, I think it's called the French weave method, where it's a similar structure to what I showed you, but it's string. And you kind of weave the string across between 2 different posts, and then you weave the plants in between them. That didn't work well for me. I don't know if I just didn't have the right setup, but honestly, it was such a pain the year that I did that, and it was really hard to, once the tomatoes got to a certain size, to really get them to weave. So I personally don't like that system. I know a lot of people use it, and that's great. The 2 systems that have worked best for me are the cattle panel system that I just showed you, and then I haven't shown you yet what I'm gonna do with the tomatoes and peppers I just planted, but just a single stake. I tend to thin out my tomato plants. I remove a lot of the foliage and usually try to get it to just be a single stalk depending on the tomato plant, and that method has worked really well for me, and it also makes it super easy for me to access the plants. The cattle panel worked great as well. So those are the 2 methods that I would suggest doing. The reason why I'm not doing tomatoes, a couple reasons. That I'm not doing tomatoes on the cattle panel system this year is, one, I want to grow cucumbers on one of the panels, and then on the other 2 panels I want to get some loofah gourds growing on there so I can use those in some different projects and such. And then also, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that it's not good to plant tomatoes in the same spot every year. So that's why, another reason why I moved them. But it was primarily because I want to use the trellising system to grow some loofah vines on. So anyways, wanted to explain that real quick. The dog is going to move now. So we'll go ahead and get the cucumbers planted, and then we're going to hop over to planting some herbs. right, so the next thing we are planting is some dill. So dill I like to have for just different recipes, pickling, cooking, all that stuff. But I actually just really love the smell of dill in the garden. There's something about that kind of like wafting through the air that I really enjoy. So we are going to plant up some dill here. And the hope is that this will seed itself this year and hopefully give me dill next year. But for now, we will plant this and see what happens. I have had dill in the garden before, but last year we had a pretty bad slug problem in the spring. We were just so moist that I had lots of slugs. So the hay decimated my dill that I had in the garden last year. So that was really unfortunate because I didn't, and it was dill that had seeded itself from the year prior. So I was really excited to see it kind of poking its head out of the ground. But the slugs got to it. And then I didn't see any return this year, which would make sense because the plants from last year didn't have a chance to bloom and drop seed. So unfortunately, I didn't have any return this year. So we are going to plant this and hope that we don't get slugs and that this, like I said, seeds itself for next year. All right, so next we are planting golden sage. So this is just a really beautiful variegated plant. It's got kind of a chartreuse green striping to it, but it just smells amazing. And this is really great to use for different things. I don't usually use sage in cooking, but I like to use sage for aromatherapy type stuff or drying it and using it in like personal care products, stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and get this planted. I had I believe this was a Brussels sprout plant that overwintered amazingly. I don't know that it's going to actually produce anything, but kind of fun. I figured I'd let it continue to do its thing. So we'll see what happens with that. But usually Brussels sprouts do not survive our winter. So I am kind of excited to see it coming back a little bit, but all right, the last thing we are planting is some English lavender called Lovely Sky. So this is a lavender that is supposed to be hardy here in Minnesota. I did have a row of it planted here last year. 2 of the plants seem to be pushing new growth. The rest of them have not. So we're going to kind of just replace these and again hope that they survive next winter. We had a very harsh winter this year in the sense that much of our typical weather includes heavy snow, and so there's a lot of good insulation for plants when we get snow. This year we did not get much snow, however we did have pretty extreme temperature fluctuations, and so it really threw plants into shock. And so I lost a lot of perennials, a lot of shrubs, a handful of trees, or just like portions of trees. So it's been hard to kind of see things that had been otherwise established over the last few years not return. So this lavender is one of them. It was thriving last year, and it just, I think, had too harsh of a winter, so it did not come back for the most part, but that's okay. We will replant and hope that it comes back next year.
Right.
All right, y'all, I think today's project is going to be done. The camera is malfunctioning. I have gotten so many things planted and it keeps turning off the recording. Thank you for watching. Sorry if things are kind of jumpy today. Camera hasn't been cooperating with me at all, but I wanted to take you along with me just to do these small little projects here in the garden. So I hope you all have a wonderful day wherever you are watching this, and I hope that you will consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. This is probably not going to be my best video, but I am glad that you're here anyway. So I'm going to finish up these little tasks and call it a day, and I hope that you all will return for another video here on my channel soon. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.